I am continuing in my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am continuing reading in a chronological order, according to event, not according to publication or volume, so I'm skipping around a bit as I move along. We are continuing in the Gospels. We are now beginning the final week of Christ's mortal life. This begins with the Passover and what we call today the Last Supper. Now, we've been reading a lot of preaching, prophesying, parables, all that happening in the daylight hours, but in the Jewish calendar, the next day begins at sunset. And so now that the daylight hours are done, we are coming to the twilight. It is almost the Passover, almost the next day. And what we read last was the Last Supper as recorded in Matthew. We will now read the story of the Last Supper as recorded in Mark. In this video, we have a Joseph Smith translation. Now, what the Joseph Smith translation is, this is a translation or correction done by Joseph Smith to restore those passages that have been lost or corrupted over the years. Mark chapter 14, verses 12 through 25. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, Well, where wilt thou that we go and prepare that thou mayest eat the Passover? And he sendeth forth two of his disciples, and saith unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, The Master saith, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will shew you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. And his disciples went forth, and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them. And they made ready the Passover. And in the evening he cometh with the 12. And as they sat and did eat, Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. And they began to be sorrowful, and to say unto him one by one, Is it I? And another said, Is it I? And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish. The Son of Man indeed goeth as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Good were it for that man if he had never been born. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread, and blessed, and brake it, and gave it to them, and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said unto them, This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many. Verily I say unto you, I will drink no more of the fruit of the vine until that day that I drink it new in the kingdom of God. Now this gives us the same basic information as Matthew. Now, one thing I did forget to mention in Matthew was how they found the place to eat the Passover. And this is more detailed. In Matthew it just said, go into the city and you'll find a man and tell him that we need the place for the Passover, and he'll let you use it. This we're given more detailed instructions. You go into the city, when you see a man carrying a pitcher, follow that man. And where he goes in, you go in, you tell him that we need the guest chamber, and you will find it already furnished. The table will be set. And that's where we will eat the Passover. So we get a little bit more detail here. And find it, and they go say exactly what Christ said happened. Now, the revealing of Judas' betrayal and the institution of the sacrament are basically exactly the same as in Matthew. There's a few minor differences in wording, but we still have the same statement that it would be better that Judas had never been born. We still have the same sacrament instituted. Now, with the revelation of Judas' betrayal, here in Mark, it doesn't actually specify that Judas is the one to betray him, which is a little odd when we note that in Mark, in the King James, he had already gone and done his conspiracy. And in Matthew, he states, It is you, yes. But when we understand that in Mark, in the Joseph Smith translation, Judas hadn't actually gone and formed the conspiracy yet, but goes after the Last Supper, then it makes sense that Christ is just saying, one of you is going to betray me, and we see the revelation that he tells Judas, that he lets Judas know that what he's doing after the Last Supper. So with the Joseph Smith translation, the order of events makes more sense with how it is written. So now we will look at the Joseph Smith translation. In verse 12, it begins, and now, the first day of unleavened bread. In verse 18, which is changed to who. In verse 9, it is now, and they all began to be very sorrowful, and began to say unto him. So it gives us a little more emphasis there. In verse 20, that is also corrected to who. Now verse 22 is interesting. It now reads, And as they did eat, Jesus took bread, and blessed it, and brake, and gave to them, and said, Take it, and eat. Behold, this is for you to do in remembrance of my body. For as oft as ye do this, you will remember this hour that I was with you. And then we have 24 and 25 states, And he said unto them, This is in remembrance of my blood, which is shed for many, in the New Testament, which I give unto you. For of me ye shall bear record unto all the world, and as oft as ye do this ordinance, you will remember me in this hour that I was with you, and drank with you of this cup, even the last time in my ministry. Verily I say unto you, of this ye shall bear record, for I will no more drink of the fruit of the vine with you, until that day that I drink it new in the kingdom of God. And now they were grieved, and wept over him. So, again, just like in Matthew, it is in remembrance of the atonement, in remembrance of his broken body and his shed blood. It is not literally drinking his blood and eating his flesh. The bread and the wine do not become the body and blood of Christ, as some Christians teach. But this is in remembrance to call our minds back to the atonement. We also have that, just as in Matthew, which again I forgot to mention, was he says he will not drink of the fruit of the vine until he drinks it new in the kingdom of God. That means he does not drink until the second coming, until the millennium. And we will see this as we read. This is the last time he drinks of wine until that time. We're going to leave that here, and we will see you in Luke next. So, see you there.